honored by your presence today, and we are thrilled to have you share this momentous occasion with us. Today, we have assembled here to unlock and understand the significance for this needful collaboration. Well, we know that research involves various issues or innovative initiatives that can often be solved by working together as team of researchers from different backgrounds. The merging of these two esteemed institutions can make possible the achieving of incredible goals.
Institute of Asian Studies. Now, as we are talking about this particular program, you can see the most important point, what we are going to discuss over here, is the research collaborations among the Asian countries. Now, so far there was a trend that what we are looking for is to have collaborations with the Western countries or the European countries. But with respect to Asian countries, if you look, then in the last couple of years, this whole thing been increased in a, what I could say that it increased almost like exponentially. Why? Because if I want to tell you about the story of SNU, Sister Nivedita University, in the last 1 year, we have almost 8 universities from Vietnam who got actually this particular memorandum of understanding with us. And there are some very important progress also in those research collaborations. The first of all, the computer science department, they are actually having one of the very good collaborative project development with the University of in Vietnam, which is coming up in a very big way. Recently, we are going to have an international workshop in Vietnam where our faculty member from computer science will go. Besides that, we already have interaction with Thailand, because there are, from the media communication department in the Thailand, from Thailand, there are some sort of collaborative research work already been started. So what we can say that when we are talking about this global influence, now it's a realization that yes, why not we think about the Asian countries. And with China, you will be very happy to know that one of the TIG group, the TINT Engineering College, 20 students from our TINT College of Engineering, they have gone to Beijing for, I think it's for 21 days. Besides that, there is already a proposal by the new Chinese Consul General that in the area of computer science, they want a team of our faculty members to visit the Beijing Computer Science Department, Beijing University, for jointly collaborating with each other. So these are the examples what I just wanted to mention, which says that yes, the Sister Nivedita University is very much interested to set up this type of research collaboration amongst the Asian countries. Besides that, there are research collaboration with the Taiwan, National University of Taiwan, where the research collaboration setting up with National University in Singapore, as well as there are some other research collaboration already with our biotechnology, microbiology department in the, with the Okayama University, Japan. In fact, right now, again, 6 students have gone from the TINT who are visiting right now the Okayama University and Kyoto University. and they are going to be there for 18 days to see the different Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo, and Okayama. These are the 4 universities they are going to visit. So with Japan also, we are having quite a bit of collaboration developed already. Now at this stage, when the Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, they approached us for having this type of joint symposium. I really want to thank our Madam Ina Bush, the President of Udyog, for organizing this collaborative seminar with Makayas. We could see that in today's program, we are going to have a very, very important deliberations. And I am very happy that we are going to have from Makayas to set the theme of this, Professor Rupendra Kumar Chattopadhyay. Thank you for coming over here. We are very happy that the former director of ISRO, Dr. Tapun Misro, is actually our chief guest and is going to deliver the chief guest address. Now regarding this, we are going to have a panel discussion also over here, where we are going to have number of very important personals. We are going to have Justice Shambhuddha Chakraborty, who is a former judge of Calcutta High Court. Thank you, sir, for you have agreed to come over here. Then Professor Suranjan Das, who is right now the Vice Chancellor of Adamas University, but actually the ex-Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University as well as Jadavpur University. And this whole program is going to be moderated by none else than, and who is going to set the tone also for this particular discussion, is by our group academic advisor as well as a Dean School of Business, Professor Debashish Chakraborty. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to come over here. Now, the next session we are going to have the industrial research collaborations. Now, industrial research collaborations, we are going to have people who are working in this particular period field of industries. We are going to have Kaushik Bhattacharya as a CEO and co-founder of one of the startup company as moderator. We are going to have Dr. Dipankar Chatterjee Chattopadhyay from Department of Polymer Science and Technology, University of Calcutta, who actually is very much related with the whole polymer science related industries. We are going to have a person from Mr. Shrudipta Guha, Director of Mekon, Dr. Borun Bhattacharya, who is a Manager of Research and Development from East India Pharmaceuticals. We are going to have an advocate who takes care of this type of industry academia collaborations, Advocate Harshada Wadkar. And at the end, we are going to have the Professor Unupam Basu to give the valedictory address regarding the whole theme of this particular program, who is at present the Raja Ramanna Fellow in Jadavpur University. Now, to end with and to thank everybody, I just want to mention this rise of knowledge economies in Asia will also drive future research collaborations. I am expecting another person from South Korea who are here and most probably is going to join very soon with us. And so these countries like China, South Korea, India, they are making substantial investments in higher education and research infrastructure. And China's Made in China 2025 initiative, South Korea's Creative Economy Strategy, and India's Make in India campaign all emphasize the importance of research and development as drivers of economic growth. And this trend is likely to accelerate with more countries in the region recognizing that their long-term prosperity depends on becoming knowledge economies. As a result, the Asian nations will increasingly seek to collaborate and cutting-edge research in areas such as liberal arts, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, nanotechnology, quantum computing, and so on. So over here, the one very important aspect of this type of collaborations is definitely the IPR issue and the intellectual property which concerns and data sovereignty issues may present hurdles for cross-border collaborations, but countries will need to negotiate agreements that ensure fair access to research findings while protecting their national interest. So, though there is disparity in research capacity and infrastructure across different Asian nations, but we are sure that this is going to be the truth for the future. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, VC sir, for so wonderfully highlighting the theme of the program, for giving the welcome address. And may I now please request Professor Rupendra Kumar Chattopadhyay to set the theme of the program. Professor Chattopadhyay is presently Vivekananda Chair Professor of Social Science, University of Calcutta. He is the former Parish Chandra Chatterjee Professor of History at President University, Kolkata, and the former Professor and Head, Department of Archaeology, University of Calcutta. Welcome, sir. May I once again please request our VC sir to felicitate, sir. Sir.
Sneha? Kapi much. Please take over here so that we can carry it.
Namaskar, good afternoon. Respected dignitaries, respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Dhruv Chattopadhyay, my beloved fellow researchers, students, and others. I feel delighted to take part in this seminar, the future entitled The Future of Research Collaboration Among Indian Nations, organized by Sister Nivedita University in collaboration with Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, Kolkata. And I obviously convey my gratitude to Dr. Swarup Prasad Ghosh for giving me the opportunity to stand before you to give small thoughts of mine. It's an honor to be a part of this vibrant panel of erudite speakers who will shed light on different aspects of the topics concerned. The intellectual, economic, science, and diplomatic bonds that tie India with other Asian nations have grown stronger in the last few decades. And we are seeing massive amount of exchange of ideas taking place between different parts of Asia, which is leading to the formation of a huge network of intellectuals and thinkers who can contribute to the development of Asia in the coming days. My fellow panelists will discuss the prospects of research collaboration between Asian nations by highlighting the scientific, technical, or technological, economic, industrial, and cultural dimensions, as well as the other venue of research on the different aspects of ancient Indian civilization, wisdoms, and others, including the legal systems in ancient India. No country enjoys a monopoly on the production and transaction of knowledge. Academic collaborations among countries between universities or institutions have increased in recent times. Collaboration for the national capacity development, collaboration as a part of globalization process, collaborations to enhance the academic credibility and national and international global ranking of different institutes or universities. Major aspects or the research collaborations and knowledge problems, particularly in terms of research and development activities in institutional level and participation of different ideas is a desideratum, so that we are broadly looking for the collaborative project for sharing our knowledge, inviting others' knowledge to give a new dimension of our social, cultural, intellectual, and other life. If you go through the history of collaborative project, I must mention, besides America, Great Britain, France, and others, 2012, when the Campus Asia started by Japan, Korea, and China, that certainly gave a new dimension of Asian knowledge system, and so as the collaborative project. Similarly, Nation Research Foundation of Korea, that also gave a new look on the other Asian countries altogether. As you know better than me, since I belong to a very narrow field of research, although I'm very much proud, I'm a retired teacher and a researcher or student in the field of ancient India. I thought about revisiting the intellectual exchanges that took place between India and the rest of Asia in the past, and how the foregrounds, the present intellectual initiatives that throw enough light in this dimension. It is very important to discuss the intellectual, the spiritual, including wisdom, or the legal and moral courage of mankind in a broad network that emanated the ancient Asian world to understand the present and the future intellectual frontiers of Asia. So, if you go through the cultural, civilizational milieu of ancient societies across geographical borders, and you just try to identify the cultural and civilizational diversity with innate similarities of regional shared cultural past. On the other hand, identifying multifaceted cultural database of the ancient societies of region which resulted in temporary socio-cultural reality. The need of exploration of interactive network among the Asian countries, that is also certainly a new arena of research. If you go through the rise and growth of Buddhism and the Buddhist network in Asian countries, from Central Asia to Himalayan, sub-Himalayan tract, that is Pakistan, Swat Valley, or ancient Takshashila Udyan. Similarly, the Tibet, Nepal, Myanmar, Bhutan, and Southeast Asia, Thailand, others. That cultural orbit parallelly operated with the Buddhist rise and growth of Buddhism. And if you go through the antecedent stage and the legacy of Buddhism, then definitely there must have been enough venue of further research in the same direction. So that, and if I mention some of the issue that may relevant to extend our thought, that is concept of Indosphere or the greater India. Nowadays we are talking about Brihattara Bharat. So how the concept that may encompasses the Indian subcontinent and surrounding countries which are culturally linked together through a diverse cultural identity. So that is also the shared relationship. If you go through the the last work of Amlan Datta, while Professor Amlan Datta is interested to get a look on the common heritage or shared heritage among the Asian. So that is a very beautiful thought and wonderful issue. The religious ideas, the spiritualism, so as our old text, including Shriti Shastras, Manusangitas, and so as the other thoughtful works of ancient India, that may also contribute towards the same dimension. As you know, while talking about Indian sphere, obviously our relationship with Southeast Asia and other countries is very remarkable in the same dimension. BIMSTEC is taking special interest on this direction to explore the network of Bay of Bengal integrated in the realm of Indic civilization or Indic world. The concept of Greater India and the colonizational system might have encouraged our nationalist historians to interpret this interactive network. At the same time, the Marxist ideology, also incorporating some of the dimension about the thoughtful issues and the useful collaboration. The ongoing discussion could not culminate without a proper elucidation of universalist Rabindranath Tagore. His ideas of one Asia echoed in later generation poets, philosophers, and they shaped history of Asia. Tagore made connections with ancient Indian civilization and captivated thousands of minds through speeches and interaction in his voyage to Southeast Asia. His thoughts remained much ahead of his time, and certainly the recent intellectual currents of inter-Asia interaction is also the new front of our thoughts. So this is the small speech or words before you. I hope today's seminar or symposium will give a new dimension of the topic concerned, and we will be definitely benefited with the deliberation of erudite scholars. I have no word to express my gratitude to the authorities of Sister Nivedita University as well as Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies for inviting me to give a speech on before you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Professor Rupendra Kumar Chattopadhyay, for making us understand the theme of this collaboration. So now we have with us our chief guest, Dr. Tapan Misra, founder Shishi Radar, former director, Space Application Center, ISRO. Welcome, sir. May I please request Professor Debashish Chakraborty to kindly felicitate, sir.
Good morning or good afternoon. Dhruvajyoti Babu, we got a good association on many issues. And Ina Madam, I think the most energetic person I ever see. I think she keeps, in fact I get quite inspired by her energy. And all dignitaries, professors, teachers, students, it's very interesting study, where actually we are trying to revisit the past, because connection with Asian countries is as old as Mahabharata and Ramayana. And if I say that at one time the Kushan dynasty, emperor spread from Caspian Sea to Bay of Bengal in Bengal, and with a Mathura as the capital, and it made a great connection between industry and also the education. Or you see the Gupta and Maurya dynasty, when they spread Buddhism, especially the Mahayana in Tibet and China and South Korea, this is not Korea, Japan, we spread our religion and our ideas, our humanity to those places. In fact, I was very surprised in Beijing, one of the top big Buddhist temple. I saw the Bengali scripts. It is actually Tibetan scripts. And Om Mani Brahma Hum, that is written. I felt suddenly a connection to a big past, which we have forgotten. Or that Chalukya and the Kalinga dynasty kings, who actually not only conquered the Southeast Asia fully, but even to extend the Satavahanas, that they have spread to the Southeast Asia. They brought knowledge, our architecture, our religion, our philosophy, and our language, and our Ramayana. They spread to all those places. But in between, almost in 1,000 years, we lost connection. And only one connection, the very remote connection in 1452, the King Saladin closed the Constantinople junction from the Silk Route, and all the European business with India got lost, and they tried to find an alternate route. They discovered America, or to be precise, Haiti, and Columbus, and this went. And then next came that renaissance of industry in Europe, and the big South East India Company, they came, and they still survive. East India Company still remains the same. Not just a company per se, there is a psychology per se. They stay in our mind and our civilization, and they have thwarted our progress for almost a quarter of a century from that mindset. But it is good that we are trying to revive. And that when we go for, because I have seen that the Southeast Asian universities, the Chinese universities, and all, and I have seen the Indian universities, and seen very closely, because I had the teaching experience of two of the prestigious IITs, and I have also a long association in ISRO, but almost just short of 4 decades. And I could see, in spite of we funding in big universities, IITs and all, we have actually fed to the European and American civilization than our own civilization. That is one point I have noted it down. And I have also observed that if I put all the scientists in ISRO of having IQ more than 120, because they are needed to run big organizations, so the people of an IQ 120 and above, I can bet that the Kanpur IIT or the Kharagpur IIT has more number than in ISRO. But surprisingly, ISRO flourished and ISRO did a very seminal thing to India than any of these IITs did. They might have done for USA, they done for Santa Barbara, Santa Clara, and also Santas up and down. But to an extent of India's industrial growth or inspirational journey of technology and science, they have not contributed. This is my very honest opinion that there was two reasons, Suddenly that a dilution of patriotism after independence. That's the, one I may look archaic, but this dilution of patriotism actually fuels a group activity on the country. And you will see that all the civilizations which compromised on their patriotism, they are going to decay. In fact, all civilization went down. It was actually the dilution of patriotism. That is one aspect. But the second aspect, I have been looking at, is there a principle in which the organization and scientific institution can be all governed by one principle than the thick management books and behavioral science books? And I found that the most fundamental equation governing the universe, governing the life, is actually governs the institution. That's the second law of thermodynamics. And that what the second law of thermodynamics, that if you see that your petrol engine and all, if you give heat, it's convert to work, and it gives you H2O, water vapor, and carbon dioxide, which is entropy. But if you can condense that exit, you get water, which is information. That is what is noise is also an information where you can extract. And I have seen these institutions, most of the universities, and there are hardly any exceptions are there, whether I take Ashoka to IITs, to Calcutta universities, and all of those, or many of these private universities, you see that they also follow second law of thermodynamics. The students pay their fees, the government gives endowments, then a lot of industries give money, that is the heat energy, and they produce students, teachers, they teach students, they put the research, PhD scholars, research work, so PhD scholars, so this is the work. And what is the entropy? The huge number of papers and conferences, and all of them are disjointed. If you look at the ensemble of them, you will not find a coherence of all these activities. And the organization which actually, you see that this ensemble, from that an information and a new idea can be taken out. And you see, this mechanism is absent. I will take the case of ISRO. ISRO does exactly the same thing. But what it does, it actually, from the entropy, from all the research knowledge, when you develop a product, there is a lot of discussion, there is a lot of papers, lot of analysis. But from that, they coalesce and bring another product. So ISRO, which started with a small rocket, they went on building bigger rockets, because from knowledge they converted this thing. Then they went to satellites, then they went to payloads, then they went to Mars, then they went to all. And you see, this is an always an growth which is organically and very calculated growth. But what makes the difference? Because they put a set of people in different management level. Wherever they see a new knowledge, new ideas they come, they quickly put it into a product and then channelize this knowledge so that entropy is converted to information, and they grow always from strength to strength. And that model is absent. Imagine that each of our IITs or this or the big private universities or the TIFers had that model, today we would have got a huge industrial. You see, we all jump, that everything catchy. That's one of them, today's date, the MIT and many places I see that suddenly put money in quantum. And suddenly put money on the semiconductor. But we are not putting money on making very precise optics for laser focusing. That is where that whole 10 nanometer or 18 nanometer chip depends. We are not putting, we are teaching these computer science students the skills, writing Python, that X, Y, Z, all languages. We are not teaching them the microprogramming, which is that actually makes them, when they write program from a computer architecture point of view. They don't write, certain virtual machine calls. So we will be always an inefficient people. We will be inefficient software developer. And that is reflected, there is no branded software from us. We have so many software people, we have so many computer science groups, you don't see that. And you see that the private industries, they want to make it very efficient, like Infosys, TCS. So they try to minimize entropy. So whatever money they invest, they want to convert to a return. And in the process, they don't create the knowledge, they don't create that discussion. They, in fact, they say that don't spend time in all useless discussion, the corridor discussions, where actually the knowledge is formed, knowledge is propagated, knowledge is emphasized. And this is where you will see they want to have a maximum efficiency. So they become almost a zero entropy system, and they do not deliver. People should not take umbrage, because I have a lot of collaboration with them, all these big companies. But you will not see coming up a great computer science product, great technology, or anything is not coming. And this we must view it, because when we go to the Asian countries, when you go to the South Korean people, when you go to the Chinese people, when you go to the Zhengdu, whether the Shenzhen or you go to the Beijing University, you will see that this other opinion, they're continuously cultivating a product. It may be very simple, it may be just a scissor, but it's a more efficient scissor. It may be an adhesive, but probably one of the strongest adhesive. You see that science should not be always, quantum and this sort of thing. There are millions of other day-to-day items where science and technology should make our life and civilization much better. I think that is the learning you should take it out from the Asian countries, which surprisingly they have mastered it and we have forgotten. That is one, another thing, that our organizations, have no focus. They have, they say all, it's like, that sun got 7 horses. You see, the sun got 7 horses, they run in one direction. Had this sun god 7 horses started running in 7 directions, the sun god would have been stationary there, we would not have a day and night. But they run in one direction. And that is where the organization should have, every institution will excel in these fields and will not invest in unnecessary, which we feel we may not excel. Because doing some small amount of algorithm and mathematics or an idea, it may be individual 1 or 2. But when you make a product, there is an innumerable science and technology come together. I will tell you that this you have seen the many houses. You have seen that the AI governed vacuum cleaners, which automatically does this. None of them has come from us. We still import the technology. The reason to do that, one has to invest in BLDS motors. One has to invest a proper wheels which will rotate 360 degree. One has to invest the lasers or the radar sensors to have a proximity detection. And then depending on the sophistication, that the AI software has to be written or the algorithm. So this is where, you'll see there is just so many things coming into picture. It will be even the vacuum absorption, even that net, one has to invest on it. And that is very million. So when you have a product as a focus, you will see the multiple technologies and multiple knowledges are there. And then you invest in all those technologies and knowledges, invest and you can convert, what the net you make, you can use it for something else. It can be mosquito net, it can be any other net. So this sort of thing, a focus on the product is needed. So when we cooperate with the Asian countries, I must say that many of our Asian brethren, when we concentrated on traveling to USA and Germany and UK, and we neglected our Asian brethren and a cooperation, we have missed that culture which is gone. And that is why, and you will see that compared to an American product, the similar product when they do the Chinese or a Korean or a Vietnamese, they make it much smaller, much handy. It is a cultural orientation. How to make things smaller, how to make things lighter. Maybe they are a short-haired people, so they can carry small weight, so they make everything smarter. I have a reason, if you give a very bulky fellows like me making things, they'll make things bigger. If you see there's some weaker fellows, looking fellows to make things, they make actually lighter because he has to carry less weight. So these are the things. This is nothing to do with this racial way of telling things or not, but they have mastered the art of miniaturization, mastered the art of diverse technologies from broom to everything. And we need research in all those fields which we think is the low-grade ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tapan Mishra, for sharing your valuable insights with us and for letting us know that how we can channelize research in the right direction. Thank you so much, sir. We now have our next chief guest with us here today. We welcome cordially Mr. David Yang Shai Kim, Indian Chamber representative at South Korea. Welcome, sir. Please come here. We kindly request our VC sir, Honorable VC sir, to felicitate sir.
Professor Chakraborty.
Something customary for us.
Oh, hello, everybody. Yeah, it's actually, this is, in my life, this is the first time in India. It's yesterday I was invited to the annual general meeting of the Indian Chamber of the Commerce. Now I'm in charge for the South Korean operation. Okay, here is, I would like to say, I would like to recommend you come to Korea. As we are looking for the kind of the joint program development with the Indian University. So it's, okay, let me tell you, it may be a different way. Is now, I am 70 years old. I went to the United States in 1982, right after I finished my undergraduate from Korean University. I went to Chicago. I have a degree from political economics. I'm not tech guy. Yeah. However, I would like to share kind of some vision with you. It's, you know, when I went to United States in 1982, a lot of American people, they do not know where the Korea existed. A lot of people, they think Chinese and Japanese. But now, maybe after Korean War, for the last 70 years old, our Korea economy is one of the top 15 rich country in the world. You know why? There's only one reason. We work so hard, we study very hard, and with the discipline. You know, all of the Korean healthy men, they have to go to the army. Army give us kind of the real strong kind of a discipline. So I would like to say, I would like to share our success with our Indian friend. I really welcome all of you have a chance to work with our South Korean University through our joint program. So sooner or later, I would like to share my success or our success together. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. So as it was mentioned earlier, the entire day's program has been divided into 2 panel discussions. So we will now have a panel discussion on the opportunities in academic research collaborations amongst Asian institutions. And this time it will be on academic research. We welcome among us Justice Shambhodha Chakraborty, present Chairman, West Bengal Taxation Tribunal, former Judge, Calcutta High Court. Requesting our VC sir to kindly felicitate him. Sir, sir, okay, okay. Requesting Shombuddo sir to kindly take a seat. Thank you, sir.
Has to come here. As he comes, in the meantime they will start.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, I'll introduce So we also have among us Professor Debashish Chakraborty, Dean Management Studies, Sister Nivedita University, who is also the moderator of this panel discussion.
Thank you. I need a mic.
Yeah, yes. Yes, sir. Kindly give a microphone. Yeah.
Why didn't you join us, Swatandra?
We also have Professor Shuranjan Das. He is arriving soon. The Vice Chancellor, Adamus University, and former VC, Calcutta University and Jadavpur University.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. Can you hear me all? Well, we're starting a session. The title of the session is Opportunities for Academic Research Collaborations Among Asian Institutions, which our esteemed speaker from Korea just mentioned a few minutes ago. So that's a good segue for us to start this. Well, we had actually 4 speakers lined up for this, but 2 of them are missing right now. Hopefully they'll join us soon. But I cannot blame them because the traffic situation is so difficult in Kolkata. Sometimes they cannot arrive on time. But we have Justice Shombuddo Chakraborty with me, a former judge of Calcutta High Court, and I am here. My name is Debashish Chakraborty. I am the Dean of School of Business and also the Chief Academic Officer for the group. So the opportunities for academic research collaborations among Asian nations is something that, as an economist, I have a little different twist on this, because historically, I think I've witnessed in my lifetime incredible amount of energy and papers going to say whether regional economic cooperation is better than global economic cooperations, and the fallacies of regional economic cooperation sometimes kind of alluded to the fact that when we focus on the region, we kind of miss the global. That has been a pretty standard theme in economics. And if you look at all the serious trade negotiations, you'll see that most economists stress on global cooperation and not regional cooperation, because regional cooperation sometimes are antitheses to global cooperation. From the academic perspective, the real question is, academically, Indian economists, Indian scientists, and all Indian researchers, why would they collaborate with someone in Japan or Korea or China where the language is unknown, and not the United States where the language is known? So that's a critical question, and what is the benefits of regional cooperation versus what are the pitfalls of regional cooperation? Are these two kind of antithesis to each other, or they complement each other? Those are the issues that I was hoping to talk today, because there's a lot of incredible evidence that's available on how regional cooperation has been an obstacle for global cooperation. With that in mind, I would ask our only panelist here, and since we have no panelists, I would ask Swatandra and anyone who wants to join. And so I'll ask, sure. No, my job is to moderate, and my job is also to conclude. But in the meantime, I would like to because that's what Ina Bosch told me yesterday to do. And so I'll hand over the mic to our next panelist and see what he has to say on this important issue.
I go there?
Yes, you can go there.
Professor Dhrubajyoti Basu Chattopadhyay, sorry, I made a mistake. Professor Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay. See, I'm very nervous because in presence I never thought that I would have to address a distinguished audience as huge as that. My very beloved Dhrubada outside the university. I have known him for a very long years, and my memory of working with him and the team in the Calcutta University Law Department for about 5 years is really something I treasure very much. And the most distinguished guests, Professor Chakraborty, I think this time I'm correct. I'm correct for Professor Chakraborty, not because of my surname, but he just mentioned it. And I must tell you one thing, Professor Chattopadhyay, the Vice Chancellor, is senior to me by several years, but we share the same date of birth. All right, but date of birth, date and month of birth. Not this, no, he's Dhrubada, otherwise, otherwise you're not the same year. And that I could get suddenly while, I still remember, while going through a MoU collaboration agreement with a Southeast Asian country. Now he was the signatory, Professor Chattopadhyay, and my most distinguished guests here. See, I was informed of this almost at the last hour. If there is something called an hour after last, is something like this, when Professor Sharu Prasad Ghosh of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University requested me to do. So I couldn't have any opportunity to get anything written, to write anything, and to deliver something substantial and substantive. So to that extent, what I will say is likely to be a little desultory. Let me tell you certain things which often come to my mind and which needs to be highlighted in this connection. We are very aware, and we know this word, cross-border terrorism. We never knew that there was cross-border exchange of knowledge. And this was India's and certainly the distinguished countries of the Asia's ancient past, which we shared with each other for a very long time. India had the opportunity of getting a large number of students from different countries. The largest university of the world at that point of time was Nalanda, which really was the seat of 12,000 teachers and students, the largest, and it used to be visited by large number of visitors, scholars from Southeast Asia, from China, from Japan, Tibet. And we also used to send our emissaries there. So there was always a giving and taking process, and this was also a part of a sort of a collaboration in the pursuit of knowledge, because there was no research collaboration per se as we use the word today. We couldn't have known much of our history if we didn't have a Yuan Sang or a Fa Yin. When we say that Atish Dipankar went to Tibet and brought back enormous treasure of knowledge, and the entire Gandhar art, please remember one thing, it was definitely a Greek contribution, but after the Greeks had left, leaving behind their principalities in Middle East, what we call Middle East today somewhat inelegantly, and there was a brachydonial process as a result of which the Gandhar art and many forms of art developed. Our distinguished speaker before mentioned the Kushan Empire with Mathura as the kingdom, the entire Kushan art of the period was changed by the Gandhar influence. And if one remembers, I understand Professor Chattopadhyay will certainly recall, and others will also, the emaciated image of Buddha as a result of the Gandhar art is one of the classical examples of this exchange program. There was no program, but then there was an exchange method. There would not have been any Harshavardhan but for Hiuen Tsang. There would not have been any Samudragupta but for Fa Hien. The Gupta history would have been absolutely drowned in obscurity. So research collaboration, not research, but collaboration and exchange of knowledge program is not a very new thing. It has been continuing for a very long time. The problem came with the advent of the English in India, when we were made to understand that what we had learned is a debased knowledge. And that was the beginning of our end of collaborative, or at least for a very long time, there was a put down of the collaborative system. A totally new knowledge was brought to be, or claimed to be brought to India. The result is that we have forgotten that we also had a very rich culture, a very rich wisdom, treasures of wisdom, and the lights of Orient had traveled to the West much before we got this picture from the West. Well, I have had some experience, and I had some experience of working on my own field, that is law and history, and I can only tell you that the systematic imposition of a foreign culture on Indian academics has resulted in almost a consistent and unfortunate oblivion of our past. That needs to be raised. That needs to be understood in the context of not only the present-day Indian knowledge, but also there should be an absolute collaboration between the different Asian countries, because the Asian knowledge, one Asian knowledge, was no less rich, no less richer than the continental knowledge, the Western continental knowledge. I have been, right now I have been working on a field which is somewhat neglected in the sense that nobody thought of studying this thing from this point of view. Everybody knows, because we were made to know, that after the English came, they wanted to civilize the heathen. The new law, the rule of law, was introduced in India. That is what we have been. The court system came. Yes, the new modern court system was introduced. But at the same time, we cannot forget, and we will be doing extreme injustice to our own past and eventually to ourselves if we allow it to forget that we had a very important legal system. Naturally. Thank you. I needed it. Excuse me. Now, we had the new law codes, the new rules were certainly not gifts, but was the result of our getting in touch with the English. The Anglo-Saxon law, it is said, was introduced in India. But if we, which is also very correct, But if we analyze the ancient law, one very distinctive feature that comes to my mind, you cannot escape it, that the very basic of the legal system that we have today, we had it in ancient India. Only difference is that there was a time gap of only 1,500 years. Law before 1,500 years and the law in 2020, 2021, 1870, 1900 cannot be the same. As we call in Bengal is Than Kal Patro. Space, time were different. Population are different. Situation was different. Law must be different therefore. Therefore the Victorian legislation and the legal principles that were developed in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th centuries could not be the same. But if we go further deep, if we analyze the legal system, we find that there was a absolute unanimity on very many topics, very many ideas, and very many subjects that it's really startling. Well, I give you an example. I know that there is no law student. I don't think SNU has a law. Yes, SNU has one. Yes. Professor Debostri was the dean at one point. Yes, I was a speaker here before. Now, but I don't know if any law. You are here, ma'am. Right. Right. But everybody will understand it. So there is most important thing, particularly in the field of the research collaboration, and the one that I mentioned, that signing MOU with different universities and etc., memorandum of understanding with different universities, the law of contract is very important. The law of contract is one of the most cardinal laws of the civil law. Now, it says, well, I just give you an example. Not too many examples I can give, because this is not the occasion. It says that in order to be a valid contract, it must be signed by somebody, executed by somebody who is neither insane nor under the influence of liquor, alcohol, right? So that he can apply his free mind. And that's the most important criteria for judging the validity of a contract. Our ancient, and we have very many sections on it. We have provisions, judgments running into thousands of pages. Our ancient Sriti Shastras, Sriti cards, summarized it in half a slok, Mattun Mattoba, which means, the factors which go to discredit a contract, Mattun Mattoba, if you are matto or if you are unmatto, right? There are almost all these civil laws, aspects of civil law, bear great similarity between the present law and the Western law and the ancient law. That needs to be investigated from the Asian point of view. I was having a very short discussion with Professor Chattopadhyay this morning, but over telephone, but then he was in a hurry and I was also in a hurry. We can only tell you, Professor Chattopadhyay mentioned the Sriti cards and the Sriti Shastras. The one thing we need to highlight, Professor, we have a law researcher. Ma'am, you are a law researcher. Oh, you are a faculty, right? In fact, we have. Yes, she is the faculty of the law university. You know it that one of the most important Sriti cards of the ancient India, Kattayan, marks the high water mark of the development of the Sriti Shastra, which starts from Monu 2. And Katayun symbolizes the development of the Sriti Shastras and the law over the last 1,000 years or 1100 years. Or a little less. He was a contemporary, a near contemporary of the great Justinian of Rome. Justinian's time has been more or less found to be accurately, Justinian could be accurately dated. It's something like 483 to 565, something like that. So he's a product of the 6th century, and Katayun was also just of the 7th century, so late 6th and the early 7th century. If we compare the two laws, the two legal systems, on very many aspects, father's right over the son's property, son's right over the father's property. One important aspect which has become very important is the woman's right, how women should be considered, to what extent a woman should be given the liberty. I can very well say, and as it has been observed by Professor Kane, P.V. Kane in his monumental work, that it is in his monumental work of the history of the Dharma Shastras that Katayun fares much better when it comes to equity, justice, and good conscience. And the law is much more human, believe, take it from me. Absolute right of women over property of a certain kind of Stridhan Shaudaik was given by Katayun. We have forgotten that in ancient India is not a place where it was only said, that not only ancient India, the ancient civilization, the ancient societies, Asian society is not the only thing where the right of women was consistently, persistently negated or negated. No sa satantra markoti is not the thing. Mahanirban Tantra tells us that yatra pujyate nari tatra ramante devata. The word ramante is very important, which means the gods live here with all pleasure. Kanna peba padoniya shikho niyati yatnata. And I can only tell you that our Asian concept of protecting, respecting women in many places far surpassed the continental concept of contemporary. You can't compare 20th century continental, Western continental concept with the ancient India, ancient Korea, Chinese, Japanese concept. That will be an anachronistic inconsistency. But these aspects need to be highlighted. There should be a persistent research collaboration between the countries, and that will reveal that we had certainly learned many things, but at the same time that will reveal that we were certainly made to forget equally good number of things. I don't know why it can be, Professor Chattopadhyay is not there, then I would have requested that there are some of the books which have gone into oblivion, and we should, there's no question of any copyright now, the authors died long before. There should be some effort to bring them out, to publish them. For example, there are from the West some books have come out like Narad Sriti, etc. They are very expensive, but why not from the Indian universities? In the 1950s, Sanskrit College started a program for publication, and after 2 or 3 booklets, it was stopped. It had to be stopped. But then we don't find any Katayun Sriti. In 1929, Professor Narayan Chandra Bandyopadhyay had published one that was a very sporadic except Monu, we don't get too many books, but then they need to be republished so that, monetary gain may not be the sole consideration in all cases, so that the students may have access to them. We have to go to Sanskrit Sahitya Parishad today to get a copy of Kathaya, and we don't have it anywhere. We certainly, Calcutta University has a very old edition, but then that was discarded long back by Kane himself. Why don't we really get them published? Why don't we publish the treasures of the other countries as well? And if we do it, the bracketorial process, which is basically a linguistic one, it can be achieved much more successfully. After all, to forget one's past and to glee over that is to deny one's own paternity. We can't afford to do it. There should be a consistent collaboration, persistent collaboration amongst the researchers. How it can be done is for the more people and others. And I don't do this anymore. When I was the lawyer in charge of the Calcutta University, I had to correct such them. But something has to be done so that a meaningful research can emerge. And that can really throw more light to some of our ancient wisdom, not only India's, but India, the larger India that we had, the Japan, the China, the Chinese, and the Mongolians, and the entire Asian thing. It may throw more light, and we can very proudly say our ancient past was not as bad as you say. It was, in fact, in many respects, it was equal. This equality we should try to remember and bring back. Namaskar.
May I ask a question?
After the session.
What is wrong with the...
We'll take that.
আচ্ছা বলেন প্রশ্ন বলে নেই আমরা ভাবতে সমস্যা
আমাদের এখন যে লিগ্যাল সিস্টেমটা আছে হোয়াট ইজ রং উইথ
নাথিং রং নাথিং রং
এগুলো জেনারেল লাভটা
না তার ইতিহাস ছিল কোনো না
আপনি বলছেন ইতিহাস
নিশ্চয়ই আমি বলছি না যে ওই সিস্টেমটাকে চালু করতে হবে আমি আসলে ভালো ইংরেজি বলতে পারি না বলে
খুব ভালো ইংরেজি বলেন
আমি ভালো বোঝাতে পারিনি
You are being very modest.
আমি যেটা আমি এক সেকেন্ড একটু বলে নিই আমি ঠিক বোঝাতে পারিনি তাহলে ইতিহাস যেন লাভ নেই আমি যেটা বলতে চেয়েছিলাম যেটা আমি বারবার করে বলেছি যে 1500 law that we had 1005 years before and the law that we have today cannot be the same, but then we can dispel the idea that the law that we have is entirely the gift or the imposition of the Westerners on India. What is the picture we get? India is a country of snake charmers, rope tricks, and we had no law. They came and gave us the law. We had a law, a very rich tradition of law. Believe me, it was systematically, it was both in the ancient period, during the medieval period, we had a rich tradition of law. And it was systematically, absolutely given to destroy by the present law.
Thank you. Thank you. মাইকটা দিন না আপনি
আমাদের এখানে সিআরপিসি আসার আগে লোককে দাঁড় করিয়ে খুন করা হতো
একদম না বাজে কথা
এখানে
একদম না বাজে কথা এখানে কোনো মিথ্যা চর্চা করবেন না
আপনি মনে রাখবেন যে আমরা একটা
আচ্ছা
নেপোলিয়ানের পরে কোড নেপোলিয়ানের পরে ইউরোপ সিভিলাইজেশন পেল
ঠিক আছে এখন
কোড নেপোলিয়ানের পরে ইউরোপ একটা সিভিলাইজেশন পেল যেটা পুরনো রোমান লগুলোর বিরুদ্ধে গেল কোড নেপোলিয়ান ধরে যা হতে পারতো সেটা ভারতে হয়নি দ্যাট ডাজ নট মিন যে আমরা একটা লিগাল সিস্টেম পাইনি পেলাম যেটা আমাদের এখানে সিআরপিসি ইন্ডিয়ান এভিডেন্স অ্যাক্ট ধরলে পাওয়া যায় সেটা ব্রিটিশই দিয়েছে কিন্তু দ্যাট ডাজ নট মিন যেটা খারাপ কিছু বা নতুন কিছু তাতে অ্যাড করতে হবে
Ratna, I think we should move forward. The session today is opportunities for research collaborations among Asian nations. That's আমি আপনার কাছে আসছি এক্ষুনি আপনি কি এখনই করতে চান প্রশ্নটা আচ্ছা 1 সেকেন্ড আপনার শেষ করিনি সুরঞ্জন বাবু আসার আগে অনেক সময় থাকবে you can talk about it so I think more knowledge is always preferred to less knowledge right you all agree with that and I was talking to our historian from Macau a few minutes ago that I'm very interested in Indian history because there's a huge literature now emerging that Indian history has been very Delhi-centric and Indian history has been Delhi-centric. And I'm looking into that in very serious ways. But, you know, despite our commonality in the past, countries have evolved differently over the years. You know, we have evolved differently, both economically and politically. So I would not be wrong if I say how many students would like to go to the United States, the number would be much higher than how many would like to go to other Asian countries. Now, why is that the case? I mean, that's a critical question that we need to ask ourselves, right? I mean, it's a good and extremely popular thing to say that we should have regional cooperation. Nobody can deny that. Nobody can dispute that. But the fact of the matter is, as an economist, I have a whole different take on this. Because an economist, Natanda probably would subscribe to that when we look for regional issues, we often neglect global issues.
That is true.
We often forget the power of the global economy when we kind of focus on the narrow regional economy, especially when our economy, our India, is surrounded by people who are antagonistic to us in many different ways. And so, can we find some meaningful collaborations with Pakistan? Absolutely not. Can we have meaningful collaboration with Bangladesh? Probably not. I know, and Ceylon, probably not. So we have to move farther east, which is Korea, Japan, Singapore, and although they are economically incredibly powerful, but the economic power did not come from original research. Their economic power came from refinement of American products. These countries have been offshore production facility for America and the West. So that's why the attraction to go to Japan, the attraction to go to Singapore, the attraction to go to Korea is much less than the attraction to go to the United States. Now, if you ask me what will dominate the next 30 years, what product will dominate the next 30, 40 years, I cannot tell you that. But I can tell you that this will be discovered in the United States. And that's where bright Indian minds find a home. Because when they go there, they are not only treated well, but they are rewarded based on completely their intellect and what they bring to the table. So this whole notion of research doesn't happen through government policies. Research happens through how these institutions evolve. What kind of political and economic partnership we have with those countries? What kind of historical linkage we have with those countries? What kind of futuristic thought process that the institutions have? And based on all of this, my conclusion has been for many, many years that it is much better for Indians and Indians to collaborate with the West, despite our colonial past, than collaborate with Asia, because we find much more common ground with the Americans and the Europeans. So, yes, I agree with Justice Chakraborty that we need more. We cannot forget our past. But the past is not what defines future collaborations. Sometimes your existing knowledge can be a handicap to future growth. And focusing too much on that can be a detriment to our economic growth. Now I can, thank you. Now I can entertain questions. But
I agree with you.
Namaskar. My understanding with the speech of
Justice Chakraborty.
Actually, if we think about the survival strategy of mankind through the ages and the inner wisdom of mindset. If you go through the civilizational outcomes like Code of Hammurabi, or civilization in Mesopotamia or Egypt, and its connection with Central Asia, South Asia, and the other world, then we must realize the truth, how to protect others. So that if I feel as a human being, my first duty to protect others. So the concept of wisdom is the inner breath of the soul. This is my... Now, Code of Manu, that also incorporated different things that is also available in the Hammurabi's code. This is the common knowledge system, shared knowledge. Similarly, heterodox ideology, that is Buddhism and Jainism, that also equally contributed towards the same dimension, because my poor knowledge sometimes hunch the evolution of Vedas, that is from Rig Ved to later Ved, and then Upanishads and Shatapatha Brahmanas and others.
Vedanta.
Yes. And the complexity of mindset or the operative mind, so that orthodoxy of our own, so that the gradual development of so many issues related to surroundings that may be responsible solely for the social conflict and the other issues, and so as the intervention of orthodox, heterodox Buddhism, Jainism, and the net result of Manushangitas, Jagyavalkya Sangitas, and others. So that this is the evolution pattern of the circumstances or the in and around the survival strategy of mankind.
Yeah. Professor Chakraborty, thank you very much. You write Chatterjee or Chattopadhyay? Chattopadhyay. Thank you very much. Actually, I never meant to say that we have to introduce Manu's laws. I never said it.
Yes, you did. You didn't.
I never said. I never said that ancient laws has to be introduced. But then we have to remember a very important thing, that 50 years before, I didn't have to read, but my father, my great-grandfather, they had to read it. In Calcutta University, as a part of our curriculum, Roman law. Right? Now, Roman law had a great influence on European legal system. There were three systems of law in ancient India. One was the Justinian Code, Roman law, the Indian, and the Egyptian. Had a great importance, a great influence. See, Italy has changed from the days of Justinian, from the ancient 12 tables of the Roman law. Italy produced one of the finest Marxist historians as Benedetto Croce. And it has undergone so much of change. Italy played a very important role in very many aspects. And Italian universities, Roman universities, are very well advanced in science and modern day knowledge. But even then, nobody asks why Roman law is taught in my country. Why Roman law is to be taught in our country. Nobody asks in Italy. It is, research is, we have research, continuous research on Roman law, and the number of publications on the subject will bear testimony to it, that why Roman law. And the Chinese are very proud of their own ancient system. And if you consider one aspect, that law being what it is need not be changed, but the law that it was need not be forgotten. That is exactly what I was telling. And otherwise, there is no purpose in the study of Indology. Indology as a subject must be obliterated off the academic records. No point. I mean, I cannot make a scissor better than the one that we have, or a stapler better than, with the knowledge of what Megasthenes had said. It doesn't mean that Megasthenes has to be burnt. That was done in 1198, when Bakhtiyar Khilji burnt the Nalanda University. We shall try to resurrect it as much as possible, but the present is not to be altered. I never meant that. Thank you very much, sir.
Here a question.
আমাকে না আমাকে না বোধহয়
আপনাকে
আমাকেই
আপনি তো বলেছেন আপনি তো বলেনি
না আরো দু তিনজন বলেছেন আগে
না আমি শুধু এই প্যানেল ডিসকাশনটা so I have this question for his lordship. See, I think I fully agree with whatever his lordship has just said, because I quote what Netaji, while fighting for our country's freedom in South Asia, had said, and there was colonialism in the other Asian countries there, that the future of this region would be strengthened if we have a collaboration. We will be the future South Asian tigers. And much later we have the European Union. So that's also a collaboration of nations. So this is, I see that there's a lot of future. Why just in research? In a lot of other things, that relationship, regional relationship. Otherwise, SARC makes no sense. Now, what his lordship has just said is very correct. That we shall not be prisoned. We will be inspired by the past, but will not be prisoners of the past. We need to look ahead. We had all this while been listening to you talking about collaborations, historical collaborations that we have had. But the subject in discussion today is future of research collaborations amongst Asian nations. How do you, our lordship, solve 2 or 3 problems? One is, all the Asian nations are not equally equipped. How do you transgress differences in research abilities and infrastructure, differences in language, differences in culture? That is one. Number 2, so how do you ensure an egalitarian platform? Number 2, how do you ensure that in spite of a collaboration, we can maintain the intellectual property rights? That there could be there's a collaboration between South Korea and us, and we have our own patents, our own discoveries. So once we start that collaboration, how do you maintain our own intellectual property rights? These 2 questions.
Right, the second question will be answered by another Chakraborty.
Okay.
Right, because you are interested in the answer.
Because there is a law.
I tell you one thing. I don't remember if you were there when I started. I said that this research collaboration and other things I will not discuss that way, because what I would say, because I was given only 24 hours notice, or little less than that, and that, so what I will say will be as much relevant as it made me irrelevant. But what I would like to emphasize is that the research collaboration need not be, I mean, there are lawyers taking care of it. There was a time when I used to take care of all these patent laws and etc. when working for different universities as legal advisor before I was elevated. 1. Secondly, their language is always a problem. Undoubtedly, language is a problem. But if you want very sincerely, it can be overcome. I have seen researchers coming from Southeast Asian countries. They are coming to India. They have learned They have learned rudiments of language, and in the process, I mean, communication can be made. Otherwise, how could people come to Vishwabharati, Shanti Niketan, before the China House and the Chinese society were really formed by Rabindranath? If there is a sincere effort, they can still, I believe, and it can be overcome. But more importantly, for example, many people, without knowing any bit of English, they go and stay in the West, and they are earning their livelihood, and without knowing any bit of English. I can only tell you one thing. I had an opportunity to ask a gentleman who used to sell eggs, not in India, but from Asian country in England. Didn't know any English, but he used to speak with, give adda with white man, etc., etc. So one day I asked him, you don't know any English, how can you talk to him? His answer was very smart. And oiba kon PhD. If we remember it, we get that how we can communicate with people. And Professor Dash has much larger experience in this field. We know that when they come, they give us a text, there are people who can translate it. We have very good translators. I think your department has also one. And so far as the other... are two different things. We know it. But then we had good translators, no doubt about it, who can translate things. How are articles being written in Bangladesh being studied in JNU and Delhi University, criticized, analyzed? They are writing in Bengali. They will not write. Salimullah will never write in English. He doesn't care for it. He writes in Bangla, Rajshahi University. Well, how is it translated? How is it being used as a source material by a North Indian student? There are good translators who take care of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, Biplab, to answer your question on the second part, yes. No. The research opportunity. No. European Union is not a very good example of economic integration. Yeah, it's actually a pretty bad example of economic integration. Dr. Dash, Ashun, please, we missed you all this time. We want to be enlightened by your wisdom. So, it is good.
Thank you. Could I first say a very big thank you?
Excuse me, just a moment. Am I audible? I know you are hungry, but we can't miss Professor Das's speech.
10 minutes. 10
lunch
minutes.
will be there served for you. Please be patient.
10
Thank
minutes.
you.
Well, could I first say a very big thank you to Sister Nivedita University and Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute for enabling me to be here and be a part of a discussion on a theme which is emerging as a major theme in current research discourses. I'll take a couple of minutes to identify first the importance of the theme and the contours of collaborative researches that could be undertaken between India and the other Asian countries. The importance of the theme emerges from the fact that we have now come to a conjuncture where there is a need of unfolding the indigenous knowledge system. So long as it is from our student's perspective, what we received, and since I am a student of history, I'll be focusing on history itself and social sciences. We had been, as students, we had been primarily been exposed to discourses which had its European origin, whether in history, or in sociology, or in economics. I take the liberty of saying in the presence of Professor Atul Khashnovich, whether in the case of history, whether in the case of economics, whether in the case of sociology, or in any branch of social sciences, the received wisdom during the colonial period had a particular colonial agenda. And one of the primary elements in this agenda is to show European colonialism in a civilizing mode. Whatever happened in India before colonialism was bad, was negative, was dark, and whatever happened after colonialism was bright. Whether in the case of the periodization of Indian history into Hindu period, Muslim period, Christian period, or in the case of sociology, in terms of social formation, or in the case of economics, in terms of industrialization happening, economic growth happening, there was a primary element of the role of colonialism in the development of the Indian subcontinent. Immediately after independence, we have the development of a discourse on in history which tried to challenge this notion of the civilizing mission. They had various contours. I won't go into details. There was the Marxian contour, there was a nationalist contour, there was also a contour which was neither nationalist, which was neither Marxian. But there was an attempt to show that whatever we had received as a result of European wisdom was only partial. It was not true that 18th century was a dark age. It was not true that ancient India was bereft of civilizational and cultural development or economic development. It was not true that the per capita income in India in the pre-colonial period was at its low. On the other hand, the story was exactly opposite. So we had the exposure to this new discourse on India. Then comes the period of globalization, where we were acquainted with the fundamental premise that no development is local or national or provincial. A development happening in a remote locality in a particular country can have a global effect. The famous happening economic downturn that happened in the Southeast Asia, resulting in an economic catastrophe in the developed world. Or take the example of a simple political event happening in Bangladesh or in Iraq, having a catastrophic impact, or Iran having a catastrophic impact at the global level, clearly indicated that in this age of interconnectivity, no development, no process can have only a local ramification. It was from this realization people in India and outside tended to look behind, look in the past, and try to develop discourses on inter-Asian connectivity in the pre-colonial period, in the colonial period, and the post-colonial period. And I'd like to place the importance of this particular problematic that is being discussed in this context. When we were students, we did not know about the contact, we did not know much about the contact that ancient India had with various parts of Asia and Southeast Asia. Why? Because it was then thought in terms of Hindu colonization. But now time has come to view the interconnectivity between India and other parts of Southeast Asia and Asia in terms of the broader paradigm of connectivity across civilization. There is a body of literature which views India as a civilizational state. I'm not going into whether it is right or wrong, but there is a body of literature We cannot ignore that. Today, if you go to Japan, if you go to Taiwan, if you go to Indonesia, there's also a similar discourse of viewing this region in civilizational terms. And if we take this particular discourse, immediately, lot of new research opportunities come up in trying to unlock the interconnections and interconnectivity that had existed in the pre-colonial period between these Asian countries, in the colonial period and the post-colonial period. Rupen is here. He's an expert in ancient period. We now know recently, as a result of excavations, as a result of new discourses, as a result of new lines of inquiry, we are exposed to an explosion of knowledge that ancient India had developed with Southeast Asia and Asia and Central Asia. In the medieval period also, if you go to Bukhara, you see the mutual imprint of Central Asian art and culture in India and the Indian imprint on the Central Asian art and culture. Come to the colonial period, when anti-colonial movement was developing in India, you have similar anti-colonial movements developing in Indonesia, in Japan, in other, and even if you take the Opium War, even in China. So imposition of colonialism generated a particular pattern and impact which has similar ramifications across Asia and Southeast Asia. And time has come today to explore the impact of colonialism, not only in one country, but to take Asia as a region. And there is a lot of collaborative scope in that particular aspect. Come to the anti-colonial period, the anti-colonial movement that happened in India and these areas. To a large extent, a major impetus to Indian nationalist movement came from what was happening in Southeast Asia. Today we only talk of Netaji. Netaji, of course, would not have been Netaji unless he had a base in Southeast Asia. But we also often forget the anti-colonial movements in Indonesia, anti-colonial movements in other parts of Asia, which had its impact also on the Indian nationalist movement. When we speak of revolutionaries abroad, in the nationalist period, we usually speak of Germany, we usually speak of Britain, we usually speak of support that we had in America. But this part of connection of anti-imperialist sentiment in Southeast Asia and Central Asia and its impact on India has not been as widely discovered as it was in the case of revolutionaries operating in Europe and America. That needs to be unfolded. Take, for example, the tremendous impact that the anti-imperialist movement in Vietnam had on India. That impact not only had an impact on nationalist movement, but it also provided a new impetus to a whole range of protest politics in India, and Bengal was particularly the place which derived a lot of inspiration from Vietnam. So these are the areas which I think Indian scholars and scholars in Southeast Asia and Asia can work upon. Because many of the source materials of this connectivity lie in the archives of Asia and Central Asia. How many students of us know the close connections that Central Asia had with India? How many students know the close connections that China and India had even before independence? So this is one aspect that needs to be developed. The other aspect is also, of course, cultural, which I have touched upon, and the other aspect is the economic. Silk Route is only one aspect of the economic connectivity between Central Asia and India passing through Europe. But recent studies have shown how the economic in the pattern of economic growth in India and in the pattern of mutual economic growth in that part of the country, in that part of the world. So that is again another aspect of India-Asia connectivity that needs to be explored. Take for example, the connectivity that developed as a result of the connections between the seaports in Indian Ocean and Bay of Bengal area and the seaports in Southeast Asia. It has not been explored. We have explored India's connectivity to the West, but we have not explored the naval sea connectivity between India and this part of the world and its impact in the pre-colonial, colonial and post-colonial period. What I would therefore like to submit, that yes, there are connections between India and Central Asia and Southeast Asia which need to be explored, but this needs to be done in a holistic manner. This approach needs to be multidimensional. This approach should not be unidimensional. There should be closer collaboration between the scholars of these two regions, and collaboration is now crucial for researchers, whether in social science or in science. Gone are the days when Rotunda would be sitting on a desk and producing treatises on his own. Now are the days when Rotunda has to collaborate with his younger generation. Isn't it, Rotunda? So that is the time that has come, and I congratulate Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute, with which at one time had a very strong connection, and SNU to take up the challenge. And what I would say, that I had been to some places where even when we speak of India's connectivity with Central Asia and Southeast Asia, there is a strong emphasis on research collaboration in STEMs. But we need to go beyond that. Science is important, technology is important, because we live in a science and technology world. But as Edmund Burke once reminded us, people who are not interested in marching forward, they are also not interested in knowing the past. If you do not know the past, you do not know the present. If you do not know the present, you cannot connect with the past, present and future. In this context, although we live in an age of technology and science, history, tradition, culture remain important. Whether in the case of connectivity, whether in the case of collaboration, whether in the case of mutual adjustment. And I hope this seminar will provide new entry points of future research collaboration between India and the Asian nations. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much for that wonderful speech, Dr. Dash. It seems that we have come to the end of the program, and as a moderator, I would like to take 1 minute to summarize the entire discussion that we had. And I think it seems that in order to talk about future research collaboration among Asian nations, we need to talk about Dr. Das, act a minute. Just to summarize, thank you for coming. But one thing that emerged from all the discussion today is that our link with the Asian economy seems to rest on our colonial past. That to me is important, but we need to move beyond that colonial past. I think the future is much broader than that. But it was a great seminar. Thank you both of you for coming and taking time out of your busy schedule. Thank you on behalf of SNU and the Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor. My heartfelt thanks to you. Thank you. We will now facilitate Dr. Suranjan Das. And I would, Ratanda, can you come to the stage, please, if you don't mind? Finally, ekটু আসুন না এত কেন করলে হয় রতনদা
Students and faculty members, lunch is just outside the hall. Somewhere lunch is there. Please collect your packets and come back for the next panel discussion, please, which will be very interesting. It's all about collaborations with the industries.
আমি আরেকটা